We've got a lot of roster moves and news to round up for you guys, including a practice squad tracker coming up on today's show. So let's jump right into it as the Browns made a couple of moves that opened up some roster spots. They placed linebacker Jordan Kunaszyk and defensive end Alex Wright on short-term IR. So that opened up 2 roster moves, but it does knock them out for the first 4 weeks of the season. So the 2 roster moves that were made, they claimed Kahlef Hailassie off of the waiver wire from the Kansas City Chiefs, and then they brought back defensive tackle Maurice Hurst. So we're going to look into those 2 moves in a little bit closer detail in just a moment. But let's just kind of scrub through the updated depth charts now, right? You have 6 active linebackers on the roster: JOK, Anthony Walker, Taki, Tony Fields, Diabate, and Matthew Adams. I'm not 100% certain that Walker and Taki, more so Taki than Walker, are going to be ready for week 1, which is just 11 days away. And by the way, Joe Burrow is practicing today. Hope you enjoyed walking over a highway to get to practice. But Diabate or Fields could be a good fill-in for Taki. Now, as for the defensive line, we told you guys this was going to happen yesterday, that the release of Maurice Hurst was just a procedural move because he was a veteran, so he would not go to the waiver wire, so no team could claim him. And they just said, hang out for 24 hours, and then you're coming right back as soon as we put Alex Wright on short-term IR. So this is what your updated and more accurate defensive line looks like. When Alex Wright comes back in 4 weeks, chances are someone else will be on injured reserve or they'll have to move on from another player. Now, as for the cornerback room, Denzel Ward was, or still is, I should say, in concussion protocol, which means the Browns were looking for some extra depth at that cornerback spot. So they brought on Hailassie, who was waived by the Kansas City Chiefs. Martin Emerson, Greg Newsome, Mike Ford, and Cam Mitchell, along with Hailassie, are your 5 healthy corners going into week 1. Notice no A.J. Green. According to Brad Stainbrook at the Orange and Brown Report, the Browns are releasing A.J. Green. Not sure what corresponding roster move is on the horizon. These roster moves are always very fluid. So if a new update comes by the time this video is out, well, we'll pin a comment or something. But this is just the nature of the beast. But grade the Browns roster for me. There was some slander going on in the Chat Sports office today, and producer Patrick Seatman will back me up at the end of the video. I literally had Jeremy Chuggs tell me he'd rather be the Houston Texans this year than the Cleveland Browns. I don't understand how far this has gone, but look at the Browns roster and try and convince me it's not a top 10 roster in the NFL. No doubt about it. For me, this roster is a B+. For now, the only reason that's holding it back from an A is that it's on paper. And I've seen a lot of great things on paper, but I want to see this one translate to the field. So before I give them their roses, I want that B+ to be something they talk about in their team meetings, because that should put a little chip on their shoulder. We know Stefanski loves to stream the Browns report before every single practice. All right, now let's get to know the newest member, though, of the Cleveland Browns roster, Kahlef Hailassie. He was with the Kansas City Chiefs in the preseason. He had an interception against the New Orleans Saints in the first preseason game, 6 tackles and 2 pass breakups. So the stats are pretty solid as far as preseason goes. You only get to play 3 games, and you don't even get to play the whole game of those 3 games. But some background information here. He was a UDFA this year out of Western Kentucky. Originally a 3-star recruit, California native, went to Oregon as a freshman, played a lot as a freshman, some defense, some special teams. Then he hit the transfer portal. He went to some JUCO schools and then ended up becoming a hilltopper for Western Kentucky. And then, like we mentioned, that 1 interception and 2 pass breakups. About 6 feet tall, 195 pounds, so pretty good size as far as cornerbacks go. Give him a good reach on the football. Really athletic guy. I mean, that's partially why he's still around, or at least he's made it this far. Let's see what kind of special teams value he can bring. I'm sure the Browns were looking to add a corner just in case Denzel Ward, who is in the concussion protocol for the 4th documented time, but who knows how many more times beyond that, let's be honest, wanted some extra depth at the cornerback spot. So Hailassie comes over from the waiver wire. That was the only claim the Browns made, and they were awarded. No player that was released by the Browns was claimed by another team, and we're going to look at an updated practice squad tracker in just a moment. But before we do, we've got an awesome deal I'm excited to share with everyone, which is this Browns hoodie, 50% off. Chatsports.com/CLE hoodie. That link is in the comments and the description of today's video. So if you want to up your Browns wardrobe, you can use our exclusive link to get this 50% off deal. Do not wait any longer, because once it's fall, which is going to be here before you know it, and the temperature starts to drop, you're going to want to get a Browns hoodie, and then you're paying full price. So I'm telling you right now, do future you a favor and order this awesome hoodie with our link. Practice squad tracker. Let's get started at the quarterback position. I'm going to update Twitter just in case a new one came out so I can verbalize it. And sure enough, they did. So, Kellen Mond, Hassan Hall, which means no John Kelly. This is the Browns going a different direction. More special teams value with Hassan Hall. Our sweet, beautiful preseason prince, Austin Watkins. I'll elaborate more on that in a little bit. Jaelon Darden comes back. Really good return, man. I could see him being elevated on game day. Alex Leatherwood, former first-round pick by the Raiders. Well, he did not last very long in Las Vegas, was with the Chicago Bears last year and during training camp this year. Couldn't really catch on and couldn't really find himself a spot in Chicago. So we'll talk more about that in a little bit. Offensive lineman Michael Dunn, who initially was reported as coming back to the roster, but then the Browns made a waiver claim, so they put him on their practice squad, but I think he could be elevated as well. Isaiah Thomas, who is recovering from a knee injury. Tommy Togiai comes back. And as I'm recording this, Brad Steinbrook reported that tight end Zaire Mitchell-Paden, who I thought looked really good in the preseason, and Lorenzo Burns are off to the practice squad. So 10 guys of the 16 available spots. I am pumped about Austin Watkins and Jaelon Darden. There was a stat that came out that of all the players that were cut yesterday, a little over 2% were picked up off the waiver wire. So it does go to show that, and I'm guilty of it, and honestly, I don't really care. I'm a passionate fan. It's going to happen every year. But when that preseason prince gets cut, we all panic that another team's going to swoop in and steal him, and then not 9 times out of 10, but like 98 times out of 100, he comes back to your practice squad, which is really good because I was nervous the Browns would lose out on him, and he could be a nice asset going into 2024 if you lose DPJ and Amari Cooper, but that's for a different video way down the road. And then Jaelon Darden, really excited about this move. He brings some good special teams value. Hopefully he can get healthy. Now, as for Alex Leatherwood, this is just a big piece of clay, and Bill Callahan, the offensive line coach, get your hands on it, right? And turn it into a beautiful sculpture that can go to the Louvre one day, because Alex Leatherwood, if there is an ounce of first-round talent still left in him, which honestly there's a real chance the Raiders just made him into something bigger than he ever was supposed to be because they selected him in the first round. But if there is an ounce of first-round talent in this guy, this is the man for the job. The offensive line coach for Cleveland, Bill Callahan, is the best in the NFL. If there is a guy to turn Alex Leatherwood around and maybe have him be the future of that first guy off the bench on the interior offensive line, kind of like what we thought Michael Dunn would be, and he probably could still be going into this season. Leatherwood with Bill Callahan coaching him for a year on the practice squad, this is the best opportunity for Leatherwood to try and save his NFL career. Some other guys who the Browns let go that are not coming back. Cade York is off to Tennessee. He is joining the Titans practice squad. He had a choice. All these guys who sign with practice squads have an option, meaning they are not like claimed. You can't claim someone to your practice squad. Players signed to practice squads. So Cade York, from what I understood and from what folks in Berea told me, the Browns wanted him back, and ultimately Cade York was looking for a clean slate. And honestly, I can't really fault him for that, right? At least in Tennessee, there's some, like Cleveland, some unfamiliarity, but there's some choppiness to their kicking situation. They also traded for a kicker, Nick Folk, so there's an opportunity for maybe him to take over. Plus, I'm sure Cade York just wanted a clean slate. He wanted to go somewhere new. He didn't want what had been a pretty, he kind of had it coming for him, but a pretty toxic fan base on Twitter, let's be honest, calling for his head after every preseason game. So the Texas native who went to LSU gets to kind of go back to the Southeast. I'm not too surprised by this. I always kind of dreamt, though, if something were to happen to Dustin Hopkins, Cade York comes in, 56-yard field goal, walk-off winner. He gets his confidence back. He gets his mojo, and we never look back, and Cade York is the next Phil Dawson for the foreseeable future, the next 10 years. But unfortunately, that is not to be. This one was a bit of a bummer. Demetric Felton, he is staying in the division, though. He's going to the Cincinnati Bengals. So Cleveland loses out on a decent return, man. I know that was Demetric Felton's calling card in terms of finding a niche, finding a spot on the roster. But by show of hands, how many times did Demetric Felton flip the field on a punt or kick return? Not really a whole lot come to mind. So this is not one that I'm going to lose a lot of sleep over, but Demetric Felton is off to Cincinnati. But let me ask you this question before we sign off. Was cutting Cade York the right move? Do you think that the Browns kind of overreacted to some preseason struggles and, hey, he was selected in the 4th round for a reason. He was the best kicker of that draft class. He has an insanely talented leg that can kick it 58 yards. Remember the Panthers game? Not just make it from 58, but hit the netting from 58. Would have been good from 68. Dustin Hopkins doesn't have that type of ability, but he doesn't miss 43-yarders multiple times in the preseason. So there's some good and some bad here. Ultimately, when you're the Browns and you're all in on this year, you cannot lose games because of the Cade York kicking situation, which you were warned about during the preseason. They had to make the move. It was the right decision. Now, we are honored to have Patrick Seatman behind the camera today. Seeps and I are actually going on a little bit of a boys trip this weekend. We're going to catch a college football game in Charlotte. So super excited about that. But Seeps, what card do you want to pick with?
You know, after the Browns' disrespect in the office earlier today.
It was laughable.
It was laughable. You know, Deshaun Watson, Kevin Stefanski, Myles Garrett, I think they're a bunch of kings, Petey. I'm going to go king of clubs.
You know, I like that because Charlotte, where we're headed, is nicknamed the Queen City.
Okay.
I'm going to go Queen of Hearts.
Okay, I'll go king of clubs.
King of clubs versus Queen of Hearts.
All right, let's go.
Give us
a face. Give us a face.
7 of Hearts.
Oh.
7 of Hearts. What a milquetoast one. What was the next one just for fun? What did I say?
Queen of Hearts, right?
Queen of Clubs was the next one. Not far off. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. If we get more roster updates and whatnot, we'll probably do another video to keep you all in the loop. So make sure you subscribe, turn your notifications on, and we'll see you guys later.